Fate Be Changed, Chapter 5, Elinor. Elinor did not know what to think as the stranger named Merida put a hand on her arm, demanding her attention. Elinor was about to protest, but stopped as she took in the girl's expression. Merida stared at her wide-eyed, as if she had seen a ghost. Frowning, Elinor felt an eerie sensation come over her, like she somehow knew this girl very well, and Merida knew her. Then, just as quickly, the princess shook off the feeling. Many from the surrounding villages have never set their eyes on the royal family. Merida was obviously stunned at the sight of the princess. That was all. "What did you say your name was?" the girl asked. "My name is not important as leaving before these men from Clan Bruce come riding back," Elinor answered. She had her eyes trained on the girl with the fiery red hair, but kept the rest of her sentences on the surrounding area, particularly the path that led to McCameron Castle, anticipating more unexpected visitors. No doubt her absence had been discovered by now, which meant her father had likely dispatched a troop of men to search for her. After all, this wasn't the first time she had fled. This was, however, determined it would be the last. But then the girl let out a little whimper. She tried and failed to get up. Elinor felt a stab of sympathy despite herself. The girl was lost, both physically and mentally. If she thought the Highland Games were already taking place, if she left this girl to her own devices, who knew what would become of her? She might venture even deeper into the woods, so deep she might never be found. And then what? What if the roles had been reversed and Merida decided to leave her for dead? "Fine, I'll help you," Elinor found herself saying. Blast. She had never gotten this far. Her father's sentries usually stopped her before she was able to make it past the 30-foot-high stone wall that surrounded the castle. But she knew she couldn't in good conscience leave the stranger, and if she was honest with herself, it was more than a sense of altruism that had her rethinking her plans. Stumbling upon the lass was the most interesting thing that had ever happened to her. She had so many questions for Merida. How had she come to be here alone, and with such a fine horse? Her gown was torn, but Elinor could tell the garment was of good quality. How had she come to own it? And how had she learned to kill and skin a hare? "Where is my horse?" Merida asked again. "I already told you he is tied to a tree next to my horse." Elinor wondered if Merida should be seen by a physician. It was possible her injury was affecting her memory. She had heard of such things happening after warfare as well, although when she considered some of the stories the warriors told when they gathered around the table at McCameron Castle, forgetting their days in combat was probably a good thing. Had this girl seen things she wanted to forget during her time alone? Traveling through this forest was not for the faint of heart. Legend had it that a mystical bear-like creature roamed these woods, seeking retribution after a spell was cast on him by a wily witch. Several villagers claimed to have seen the beast throughout the years. Others were quick to dismiss it as a fable meant to scare would-be intruders. Elinor had a healthy respect for the legend of Mor'du. She had given much thought at how she would respond if she were to encounter the beast during her escape, but had not come up with a satisfactory solution. "I should check on Angus," Merida said. "He is a handsome shire," Elinor remarked as she held out a hand to help the girl into a standing position. "You are lucky I'm the one who found you. There are others around here who have had no issue slitting your throat as you slept so they could take off with your horse." Her father had at least 100 like it. She knew how valuable they were. "Did you steal him?" Elinor went on. "Because if you did, you are going to bring more trouble on your head." "Of course I did not steal him. He's mine," the girl said haughtily. She took a step, and it would have crumpled to the ground if Elinor had not been there to stop her fall. There was no doubt about it. This girl, Merida, needed immediate medical attention, followed by a warm bath. The girl's bones must have been chilled from the night of sleeping outdoors. Elinor would have the apothecary whip up a seine to help stave off fever. She pulled her plaid from the linen sack and wrapped the thick wool around the girl's shoulders, securing it with a pin imprinted with the McCameron crest. "Stay right here," Elinor told her. "I will bring the horses." The girl nodded. "Thank you, Elinor." "You're welcome, Merida." Merida. It was a pretty name for a girl with a pretty face. Elinor walked over to the horses. She untied Alistair, the jet-black Frisian she had been given for her 13th birthday. "Next time," Elinor whispered to him, running her hand down his back, "next time we are going to make it all the way to the Cheviot Hills and beyond." Elinor wrapped Alistair's reins around her hand, then turned to Merida's horse. She could tell by his broad chest, shiny coat, and lush mane that he had been well cared for, which made her wonder yet again where this girl had come from. Was she really of Clan Dunbrock? If so, why were there not scores of these red-headed louts looking for her? There were vagabonds throughout these lands, wandering who had been cast out of their clans, but this girl did not appear to be a cast-off. She wore no clan's colors. Elinor had no doubt she belonged to someone. Was she foolish to trust her? Was she inviting the enemy into her family's home? What if the Redhead's injuries was all an act, some ruse to breach McCameron Castle? The alliance between the various clans that inhabited McCameron Kingdom and its surrounding lands were fragile at best. If the treaty were to be infringed upon, she would bet her prized loot that the one to shatter it would be from Dunbrock. The clan of feisty Highland warriors had at one time been Clan McCameron's fiercest enemy. What if the strange girl was a harbinger of bad news, and Elinor was the one who unleashed her into her family? But what if she wasn't? No, Elinor's conscience would not allow her to leave the girl to fend for herself. The best she could do was pray that her instincts were not wrong, and that Merida was not faking her injuries. Untying the shire from the tree and wrapping his reins around her free hand, she escorted the horses back to where she had left the girl. Except Merida was no longer there.